every round.
Go. This could decide the game.
4th and goal. And they're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
What a pass to MB! My goodness! Posterizes Baines and the foul!
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show. As always, I am your host, Dylan Davis, and joining me today is my co-host, Matt McGinty. As always, the Phaithful Phanatics Show is brought to you by DSM Media, so if you're new to the channel, please tap in on our YouTube channel at DSM Media or on Twitter at DSM_media. Give us a follow on TikTok, Twitch, IG, Facebook, wherever you are, whatever social media platforms you have. We are on all of them, so tap into DSM Media wherever you get your content. On today's show, again, we have a lot to dive into. Eagles 53-man roster was just announced at 4 p.m. at the deadline today. Week 1 is just less than 2 weeks away. More Ben Simmons drama. The Phillies have somehow found themselves back into my mind. I was done watching them. I was putting them on the back burner, and here I am. They're allowing them to reel me back in, and I want to know, and I want to hear from people today and hear from you, Gint. Are you allowing the Phillies to keep you tapped in? Are you allowing the Phillies to reel you back in just when you thought you were out on them? Jason, I can't wait to hear his opinion. I know he's been out on the Phillies, so I can't imagine that he's being reeled back in, but busy show today, Gint, and I guess we'll just start with the team that I guess I'm most excited for right now because there's a lot of new moving pieces. They haven't found a way to upset me yet this year, and that being the Eagles and their 53-man roster that was put out today. Obviously, like Phil from here at DSM Media has said a lot the last few days, don't expect this to be the definitive 53-man roster on September 12th on opening day. It won't be. There's going to be a few little additions to different places. Tyree Jackson is on the roster. Obviously, he will be put on the PUP list, and there's going to be a bunch of smaller moves to be made. But we can look at it, we can examine it, and see how we're feeling this year. Again, so I'll start here with it. What surprises do you see on this 53-man roster that the Eagles have put out? Like, position by position, players, like who missed it, who made it, etc.
I think the Travis Fulgham move is definitely, I don't want to say a surprise. I think we all thought J-Jaw was going to end up on the roster, but I probably categorize as a mistake, in my opinion. I saw a tweet today. It was a good tweet. It said, Fulgham just hasn't been able to put it together. He's been cut by 3 teams. He showed flashes, yada, yada, yada. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, I just called him JJ Garcia. JJ Arcega-Whiteside has shown no flashes of anything. 0 flashes besides when he picked up a fumble for Miles Sanders in the end zone. It was just StarCraft of his career thus far. So I don't want to say that was a surprise because I think when we were all on the show with Phil and everyone, we said like we thought JJ would make the roster. I know Phil has been ecstatic about it for some odd reason, but I don't want to say ecstatic, but he's happy to be right, I think. So definitely the Travis Fulgham move. I think we definitely saw John Hightower coming. Jordan Howard, I don't know if it was a surprise, but it was something I didn't see coming. I thought they'd kind of use him as like a fake power back at this point in his career.
So
but yeah.
No, I agree with you, dude. Obviously the back end of this wide receiving room was something we were trying to keep a close eye on all training camp and all preseason long. How would it play out? Obviously with the starters and Jalen Hurts only playing 2 series really on offense in week 1 of the preseason. It's hard to judge, Travis Fulgham. It's hard to judge Jay Jaw. It's hard to judge those guys. Like they're put out there with the backup offensive line and Joe Flacco and Nick Mullins. So it's hard to judge, how they would perform with the first team offense. But with that being said, it's tough for me, man, because I've said it all along. Is Jay Jaw going to make the team? Yeah, most likely, probably. I've said it about the Dillard thing as well. Howie Roseman does not like to be proven wrong with his draft picks. He's going to force them down your throat for as long as he can to try to make it look like he made the right decision. That's why Jay Jaw was going to make this roster. At the end of the day, no one deserved a spot. So it's hard to say, well, are they crazy? Why would they cut Travis Fulgham? Why would they cut John Hightower and keep Jay Jaw? Because Fulgham and Hightower didn't deserve a spot either. They didn't do enough to separate themselves. But with what you said earlier, something that I've been saying for a long time, yeah, Travis Fulgham has been cut by 3 or 4 teams, bounced around from practice squad to practice squad over the last couple of years. He might have an attitude problem, a locker room problem. I don't know the case. I'm not behind the scenes. But what I can say is no matter if it was only a 4-game stretch of Travis Fulgham looking good, it's 4 more games than Jay Jaw has ever looked good in an Eagles uniform. Now, maybe he wasn't used correctly. Maybe in the new system, they're going to use him better. I know he's more of a special teams guy, so that's playing a role in it. But when I look at this wide receiver room, now we got excited, right? We got the Devontae Smith draft pick. Jalen Reagor, we're seeing these incredible catches in joint practices and training camp. Quez Watkins putting on the burners against the Steelers in week 1, and he's going to be a top 3 wide receiver on this team. You get past that, Gint, and this wide receiving room is slim pickings because you either go with the guy, Jay Jaw, that we're talking about, or the only other option on this team right now is Greg Ward, who's, we've read this book 1,000 times before. Now, maybe as a 4th option, Greg Ward can produce, can be a little more effective than we've seen in the past. But I think they have to do something. I mentioned it in the beginning of the show. Don't expect this roster to look exactly how it is on opening day compared to right now. They have to bring in someone in that wide receiver room, like I don't know, like an aging, not an aging veteran, but a veteran wide receiver who just needs to be a 4th or 5th guy on this roster. They need another body, a serviceable body in that room.
Yeah, a name I saw today was John Brown. I think he really sticks out. He just doesn't seem like a guy we don't get anyone. No. So, but
no, and Jason, I will get to as many of your comments as I can soon. Thank you so much for.
I think you're definitely right in the wide receiver part, especially like we saw Quez Watkins in the week 1 turn the burners on and look good, but to say he's at this point a reliable 3rd option is not.
Yeah, we don't know.
To even say Jalen Reagor's a reliable 2nd option right now isn't even. I'm sold on Devontae Smith. He's number 1 option. It's fine. It's a clear-cut, perfect option. But after that, it's Jalen Reagor's a huge question mark. Quez Watkins is a bigger question mark than Jalen Reagor at this point, probably. So you need to get something reliable, like you said. Like Greg Ward isn't back pocket material, in my opinion, that, it's fine, we'll just plug him in at number 2. You got to get somebody in here.
No, and like I said, we all got caught up in the moment, and I'm still excited to see this offense and see these young wide receivers perform because maybe we were correct in getting excited in the first preseason game. Maybe we are correct in thinking with the new coaching staff and new regime, Jalen Reagor and Quez Watkins are going to be utilized better, and it's going to be a fun, explosive offense. But if it's not, you have no other options. They only kept 5 wide receivers. Now, as Jason's pointing out, I do expect another guy or 2 to be brought onto this roster just as a serviceable body that can play. But it was definitely a surprise, I think, especially because Travis Fulgham was like one of the first like main cuts. Like I was expecting that to kind of come down to the wire. Okay, who's it going to be? He was released at like 1:00 in the afternoon. John Hightower came after that. So it's going to be interesting in the wide receiving room. Definitely something to keep an eye on. You pointed out the running backs, Ken. You pointed out Jordan Howard not making the team, and that for sure stuck out to me as well. But also the fact that they're only carrying 3 running backs at the moment stuck out to me as well because they had I feel like 9 names thrown out there in training camp and in the offseason, and now you're sitting here with 3 guys that all I guess are kind of similar in styles of play, in my opinion. They don't have that change of speed running back. They don't have that power punch that you were thinking. Jordan Howard's probably past his time. I think he's only like 26, 27. He's still pretty young, but you can tell the motor is running down on Jordan Howard. He doesn't have enough left in the tank. He would have been on this team if he did. But you have Sanders here as your starter. I like what I've seen from Kenny Gainwell so far. Hopefully it translates to the regular season, but he's one of those, pass catching speed backs, the same way they kind of use Boston Scott. They don't have that change of power, change of shift kind of running back to throw in there that Jordan Howard would have provided. Also, can any of these three guys pass protect? Something Jordan Howard put on center stage week 1 of the preseason. I don't know. So that was definitely something that caught my eye as well, that they're lacking depth offensively on the skill positions. But you know where they're not lacking depth again?
Offensive line.
Well, yes, but the tight end room.
I was going to say the quarterback room.
Yeah, the quarterback room. And we will get to that move. We will get to that move because he's on my list. Okay. You know this, Gint, but I don't hate it. And I'll get to why in just a few minutes. But the tight end room, I want to get your thoughts on that as well. Very surprising to me. Obviously, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are the 1-2 punches here in that tight end room. But then, obviously, Tyree Jackson made the roster. He will be put on the PUP list, I would expect. But you got to figure they were kind of handicapped with this situation because if they try to put him through waivers, someone was most likely going to take a flyer on him and pick him up, and he wouldn't have gotten through waivers, and the Eagles would have been lost out on Tyree Jackson, who apparently had hell of a camp before this, and they are super excited about. So I understand that. And then who is it? Jack Stoll makes the team. What do you think about that? Obviously, this is a minimal move when we're thinking about this roster as a whole. But what about Stoll making the team over Richard Rodgers?
Yeah, I don't.
And he was cut. Richard Rodgers is gone. He was just flat out cut.
How much of a reaction I have on it, besides the fact that Richard Rodgers didn't look horrible to end of the year last year.
He was like Wentz's number one option at the end of the year.
Reliable option. It seemed like at some points. I mean, it's such a move with
such a minimal thing to look at.
It would be like a different story if only one of Goddard or Ertz were here and they were tight end number 2 at that point.
Right.
For them to be tight end 3 in where we don't even think the Eagles are going to have a lot of 2 tight end sets on the field at a time, it's such a minimal move. That's probably the only take I really have on it.
I was just throwing it out there because at first glance, when you see 4 tight ends on the roster, obviously it would not have played out this way if Tyree Jackson didn't get hurt. Stoll would not have made this roster, I would assume, and they would have carried 3. The fact that they couldn't allow him to go into waivers, they had to keep a 3rd because God forbid Ertz or Goddard gets hurt. So a lot to play out there, but definitely surprising to see 4 tight ends and 3 running backs on this Eagles 53-man so far.
Yeah, something I wanted to chime in on with the running back situation, because you mentioned it. You said all 3 kind of play similar. And I'll take you one step further than that is the 2 backups play essentially identical.
Yeah.
So that was the most surprising part about Jordan Howard. And, they have to go somewhere. You have to get some sort of power back at this point. I don't know who it's going to be, but that's a pretty important thing, especially because now we've mentioned 2 skill positions, the 2 most important skill positions probably. And we're saying we need someone in the room, and we're how many days till kickoff? So, and especially when these guys we need are going to play a role, it seems like at this point, right?
For sure.
We don't have a power back, and we don't have a reliable 4th option, which the 4th option could eventually become the 2nd option. It's a mess right now. I don't want to say a mess though. That's not the right word.
No, I understand what you're saying though, and the funny thing about this running back room though is the fact that I'm okay with Boston Scott not playing unless it's against the New York Giants and New York Jets. And then Kenny Gainwell, I liked what I was excited about the pick. I think, what was he, a 5th round draft pick out of Memphis? A lot of speed, very dynamic runner. And I think in the way that I saw Sirianni and the Colts offense use Hines and those guys in the backfield and catching balls out of the backfield in Indianapolis, I think Kenny Gainwell is definitely going to play a role in this team. I think he might even be the 2nd running back to start. But like you said, when you don't have that power punch, and I'm not saying Miles Sanders can't pick up short yardage situations. I'm not saying Miles Sanders can't punch it in from the 1 or 2 yard line at the goal line. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying you need freaking Brandon Jacobs back there to punch one in at the goal line. But what I'm saying is Miles Sanders has yet to prove that he's a 3-down back. They've never used him like that. I don't foresee Sirianni coming in because we know he likes to rotate running backs and using him as a 3-down back. Well, guess what? I don't love the idea of Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott being out there for 4th and 1s and 3rd and inches and goal line pushes, because we saw it all too well with how Doug Peterson tried to run out Boston Scott or Darren Sproles on 4th and 1 and short yardage situations, and it doesn't work. So that is definitely a dynamic to look at with this roster. Are they going to bring in a change of pace running back, that power punch, that pass protecting running back that they're lacking? And maybe they don't need it. Maybe we're overvaluing what Jordan Howard's role would have even been. He probably wouldn't even have seen the field much. I'm just saying they don't have that option now. They would have had that option. They don't. Obviously, you mentioned already, again, just running through this roster. The offensive line, they have 10 offensive linemen, extremely, extremely deep. Obviously, Howie Roseman makes that trade earlier today. Matt Pryor is no longer an Eagle. Thank God. I've been making this claim since week 3 against Cincinnati last year when he had the false start on the 4th and the 59-yard field goal attempt in overtime against Cincy. Pushed it back. We all know how that ends. Doug punts, whatever. Matt Pryor's no longer an Eagle. He gets that 6th-round draft pick back that he traded for Gardner Minshew, which we'll get to in a moment. But that offensive line, what do you like here, Gint? Because obviously last year when the Eagles got injured on the offensive line, it was kind of a wreck. We didn't like what we saw from the Nate Herbigs of the world, the, Isaac Say Miles of the world at the time, who is probably going to start. We didn't like what we saw, the Brett Toths of the world who's on this roster. Jack Driscoll got hurt. But now that those guys got in-game experience, regular season experience for a long portion of a regular season, and now they're your backups. This offensive line is very deep, and I think it's one of the strongest points of this Eagles roster.
Yeah, so the backups now are what? Driscoll, Herbig, Dickerson, and Dillard?
Yeah. And they still kept Toth or whatever is back there
and like
too.
You said, those guys played last year, and they played a decent amount. Now, I don't know how much they played together because the offensive line shuffled a lot, to say the least. But, I mean, that's pretty important, especially the way you're playing an extra game in this season, and injuries in the NFL last year were an absolute clinic, and that was a horrible scene to see a lot, especially for the Eagles on the offensive line. So it's definitely important to have.
This is a great point from Jason that I didn't even pick up on. Don't forget, with the vet vest, they could bring Howard back after week 2, and they would not have to pay the full money if they would have kept him off the jump. And yeah, you could definitely see Jordan Howard back in the Eagles uniform. But who knows? Who knows what they'll do? And I agree, this offensive line depth is key because, like I said, they are an aging group. They have been an injury-battled, injury-plagued group with Brandon Brooks, with the likes of Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, etc. Now that you have guys who got, a lot of experience last year, in the Nate Herbigs of the world, the Jack Driscolls of the world. Obviously they bring in Landon Dickerson, the 2nd-round pick, who was just cleared yesterday. They're very high on him. So it's going to be a lot of, not a lot of fun, but it's going to be fun to, not, oh my God, when Lane Johnson goes down with an ankle injury for 2 weeks or something like that, they have guys that can step in and really not be a detriment to Jalen Hurts' success or this offense's success. And the last part of this offense that we need to review again is the quarterback room. Obviously, Jalen Hurts announced today as QB1 from Nick Sirianni. No surprise there. He took every first-team rep in training camp. Listen, I can't believe some people, and it's out there, that some people actually, after the Quez Watkins touchdown, were like, oh, Joe Flacco, you think he could start? And I'm not just saying, I know there are Twitter trolls out there. There are people that I've talked to that asked me a legitimate question. Is there any way Flacco starts over Jalen Hurts? Obviously, so Hurts QB1, Joe Flacco the backup, and Gardner Minshew freshly brought in as QB3. I think at some point in time, you will see him bumped up to QB2 and Jalen Hurts backup. Let's get into that. Again, we haven't talked about that move yet. It's funny because you know how I felt about Gardner Minshew. And again, it's what happens with me with a lot of athletes who I say I don't like or who annoy me. It's not them. It's how people and social media and fans try to put these lesser talented guys on a pedestal, right? So when Gardner Minshew Mania is running wild in Jacksonville and, that all that just pissed me off, right? But what I will say is, it's a good move. It's a good move by Howie. You gave him up for a 6th-round draft pick. You then in turn got a 6th-round draft pick back together. So you got you basically acquired your backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew for Matt Pryor, essentially. And then he's on your books for the next year or two after this. I think at least one more year. I forget if it's 2 more years. So he's going to be the backup of the future. He's a guy where, if Joe Flacco didn't impress, if Joe Flacco's age was showing in preseason, if something happens to Jalen Hurts, if he goes down for a week or two and the Eagles are kind of in the thick of things in the division, no matter what the records are, Gardner Minshew can step in and win a football game if need be. I joke around. He's on my list. I wasn't a fan of the Minshew mania. I get it. But for what the move is, I like it. You don't like it?
I don't get it. I also
Why though? Why?
I don't get it from a Jaguars perspective.
Well,
I understand you probably have all the faith in the world that Trevor Lawrence is going to play every game this season. And he's going to be really good. That's what you'd hope out of the number 1 draft pick. But for a 6th-round pick, and then what was Flacco's contract? 1 year, $3.5 million or something?
I think so. Yeah, he got a decent amount of money.
That's backup money. That's not third-string money. So
well, he is backup right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we all assume that Gardner Minshew is probably a better quarterback than Joe Flacco at this point.
Yeah.
So
I get what you're saying. Well, but what I'll answer to that is, at the time of the Flacco deal, at the time of the Mullins signing, who was okay in San Fran starting games last year, they probably didn't expect to have to go out and get a guy who could potentially back up Hurts, because they thought they figured that out with 2, veteran types of quarterbacks, and neither one of them looked good in preseason. Flacco looked okay. I think people really over-talked and overhyped his poor play in week 2 of the preseason. The entire team was awful. He played with the backups. He was thrown out there at the last minute. I think Flacco's okay for the time being. I just think the reason it was made was because they only had to give up a 6th-round pick. He's on the books next year on a cheap deal that can be your backup. He can step in and win you a game, and they probably didn't foresee this playing out this way. So I don't hate it. I mean, I laughed at it when I saw it, but
I don't hate it either. I just
no, I know.
When it happened, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
It was very out of the blue. The good news is, the point is, if Jalen Hurts is the guy, if Jalen Hurts stays healthy, we're not worried about any of this. We don't have to worry about who the backup is. It's just a fun, charismatic QB room who all 3 guys have very different taste in style.
How long are you on the books for?
I think this year and next year. It could be 3 total years, but I think it's just this year and next year. So you get him for a cheap deal next year when Flacco's no longer on your books as well. Again, here's what we'll do. Obviously, the defense, I'll just run through it real quick. Who this Eagles defensive line looks like. Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan, and Teron Jackson are your defensive ends. Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, and the rookie Marlon. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. I believe he's the defensive tackle from USC that we picked up late in the draft. He makes the team as your defensive tackles. Linebackers, 7 linebackers kept for the Birds, obviously for special teams depth. Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Patrick Johnson, Jannard Avery, Davion Taylor, Sean Bradley. Your corners, Darius Slay, Steve Nelson, Avonte Maddox, Zach McPherson, and Josiah Scott. Safeties, Rodney McLeod, who was cleared yesterday as well, with Landon Dickerson, on track to play week 1, hopefully. Ant Harris, Kevon Wallace, Marcus Epps, and your special teamers, Jake Elliott, long snapper Rick Lovato, and what is it, Adrian or Sipos, now as your punter for the Birds. So that's your special teams and defensive efforts right there. But what I'm going to do here, Gint, is just to speed this process up a little bit. And the defense, there's a couple new additions. Obviously, Ant Harris, Steve Nelson, and Eric Wilson are the new veteran additions. The draft picks and Zach McPherson and Milton Williams will play. We know all that. But I want to pull up this screen here. Here is the Eagles on your right, the 2021 today's 53-man roster compared to your 2020 initial 53-man roster of your Philadelphia Eagles. And I just kind of want to run through it and kind of compare each group, each room to what they were last year. Because again, I think going into last year, we had decent expectations for the Eagles, right? It seems like a lifetime ago, but I think we expected them to contend for the NFC East, to probably win the NFC East. We probably didn't expect the injuries to play out the way it did, everything to play out the way it did, the Carson Wentz saga, everything like that. So let's look at this room, because in my mind, this team on paper is better than it was last year. And we had decent expectations for this team last year. Obviously, ton of ifs. That's been the whole story of this offseason and will continue to be the story of this regular season. If Nick Sirianni's this, if Jalen Hurts is this, if Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor are this, if they stay healthy, we got all that. But let's take it for what it is on paper. Obviously, we could put the QB room aside because Carson Wentz no longer here. Jalen Hurts is your guy. But I would say all around, it's probably a stronger, deeper room than it was last year when you look at the likes of Hurts as your backup, as your third, and Nate Sudfeld. Now it's Hurts, Flacco, Minshew. Running backs, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and instead of Corey Clement, who was cut by the New York Giants today, you have rookie Kenny Gainwell. Again, would you say this room is better? Obviously, there's only one different piece here. So would you say the upgrade of Kenny Gainwell makes this room better? Because I think he's going to be your number 2 compared to Boston Scott as your number 2 last year.
Yeah, I think it's an upgrade. I'm not the biggest Kenny G guy, but Corey Clement was kind of strung out last year. So yeah, I'd definitely say it's an upgrade.
I do too. I think this running back room is better than it was last year because of that upgrade, but not just because, obviously, when you look at it on paper, it's Sanders, Scott, Gainwell compared to Clement. And you would say, okay, we have higher expectations for him than an injured Corey Clement. But I'm taking it for the fact that I think Gainwell is going to be your second guy. He's going to get more playing time than Boston Scott. That's just how I think it's going to play out over the course of this year. And for that reason, I'm way more excited about it because I believe I don't know, dude. I'm falling in love with the speed. I'm falling in love with the pass catching ability out of the backfield. I think you're going to see Kenny G lined up in the slot at times this year. I think you're going to see Kenny G being fed some reverses this year. A lot of fun stuff, a lot of misdirection with him. So yeah, I think the running back room is better than it was last year. Now, again, with where expectations were last year with the wide receiver room, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor, Jay Jaw, Greg Ward, John Hightower, Quez Watkins. How many receivers is that? That's 7 receivers compared to 5 right now on this Eagles list. You have Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, Jay Jaw, Greg Ward. So everything's the same except you plug in Devontae Smith, you lose Jeffrey, Jackson, and Hightower. Is this room better than it was last year? But here's how I'm trying to phrase this question. We know how it played out. It's Monday morning quarterbacking right now. It's hindsight. We know Jeffrey sucked. We know Jackson was injured. We know Reagor was injured, everything like that. Take it from your expectations going into last year, compared to going into this year. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So would you say going into last year, you felt more comfortable with that group, or do you feel more comfortable with Devontae Smith in this group?
Last year. 100%.
Last year?
Yeah, 100%. We do. I mean, as we talked about earlier, Reagor's still a question mark, and Quez Watkins is an even bigger question mark at this point. Last year, you rolled in with what you thought would have been a bounce back year from Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, and then Jalen Reagor being a question mark last year, obviously, because he was a rookie. And then you had Greg Ward, who's the same kind of back pocket guy he is now. And then you had J-Jaw, who sucks still, but
J-Jaw sucks, always gets thrown in here on our show, but I agree with you. I definitely feel like if we're tempering our expectations and saying what we felt at this time last year at looking at that group compared to this year looking at this group, I would say I probably expected more out of last year's group. However, with that being said, I think as time goes on, it's going to be a clear upgrade. Obviously, you would have to hope so that it was an upgrade from that putrid wide receiver room last year. But the draft pick of Devontae Smith, the fact that Howie actually invested in that position that high in the draft, I loved it. Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, and I'll say more than anything, Gint, it's not just that room. I think it's how this coaching staff is with wide receivers compared to last year. I think that's going to be the biggest difference maker, is not just the talent that's put on paper and put out there. It's how they're utilized. It's the scheme. It's the offensive plan. It's how they practice. It's how they're worked up. So, I think going into last year, I was I was happier with the wide receiver room, but I think this wide receiver room will be better. Obviously, tight ends are just about the same. They're just a couple more on the roster this year, and then a deeper offensive line this year. Let's
I
go
also
to the
want to say that I think
Okay.
last year I was much more confident in the tight end room than I am this year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, last
Is
year
that because you figured Zach Ertz was still a top 5
yeah,
tight end?
I had Zach Ertz, I think, ranked the 4th best tight end in the NFL last year. And I don't think Goddard's top 10 tight, or he's probably like 9. But and then you don't know what Zach Ertz can be this year. If Zach Ertz comes back and becomes 3/4 of what he was in the Super Bowl year, then it's probably going to be a much better room than it was last year. Obviously, with how bad Ertz was last year.
That's an interesting point, and I mean, I agree with it because if we're basing it off of what we were looking for last year, yeah, we were kind of we were kind of in this expectation mode of Zach Ertz is still a very, very good tight end. He's looking for that Travis Kelce, George Kittle-esque payday. Is he going to go out and get it? Obviously, we know it didn't play out that way. Dallas Goedert's a huge unknown for me. It's a huge unknown for you. I've seen the talent. I get the upside. I get the athleticism, the route, his route running as a pass catcher, everything like that. He blocks better than Ertz. But at the same time, we talk about all the time in the city, people anointing players as QB1, wide receiver 1, tight end 1 before you know and have enough information. I think that's how it's played out with Dallas Goedert so far. Hopefully, he shows us why he's going to get a payday here in Philly. Hopefully, Zach Ertz can have a bounce back year. He's looked pretty damn good in training camp and preseason so far. But again, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball because that's where we really haven't gone over anything yet. I want to look at this defensive line, and I'm not just going to go ends and tackles. I want to go for what it is. So last year's defensive line group, you would have had Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett on your ends, Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave as your tackles, with Josh Sweat, Vinny Curry, and Malik Jackson really being rotated in. This year, you're going to probably see Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett on your ends, Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave as your tackles. And then you're going to see Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and newly added Ryan Kerrigan rotated in. Which room do you think this room is upgraded compared to what it was last year?
I think I have to say yes. Yeah, I'm definitely going to say yes. I think the Ryan Kerrigan signing kind of gets swept under the rug with like the Steven Nelson signing happening, obviously. Biggest thing with Ryan Kerrigan, obviously, besides him not playing against us, is that's probably actually the biggest thing is he doesn't get to play against us. So yeah, I think it's an upgrade. I do. I didn't love Vinny Curry. Vinny Curry brought back when they brought Jeremiah Trotter back, and it seemed like it was just kind of like a played out thing at that point. So yeah, I think it is an upgrade.
I'm not going to lie, man. I am excited for this defensive line group. I love the addition of Ryan Kerrigan. I think Josh Sweat continues to take the next step. Milton Williams, I'll continue to say it, is a humongous human being, and I think he's going to be disruptive this year up the middle. Javon Hargrave seems healthy in camp this year and seems to be a problem. Hopefully Fletcher Cox doesn't have to play as many snaps, so he's more productive. But if I'm looking at it from where I was last year compared to right now, I was more excited and had higher expectations for last year's group simply because I just thought, you paid Javon Hargrave as one of the highest paid nose tackles in football to pair him with Fletcher Cox. It's year number 2 of Malik Jackson, who I absolutely loved when they signed him 2 years ago, and then he got hurt in week 1, his first year. And I just thought they were deeper. Obviously, injuries played out. Malik Jackson was not effective. Ridgeway was whatever. Carey, his time is up. So I'm super excited for this group. I think they're still going to be top 5 in sacks. I still think they're going to be super productive. But I just think the expectations I had for Cox, Hargrave, and Malik Jackson up the middle outweigh what I expect this year. But with that being said, if Javon Hargrave's healthy and he's back to where he was 2-3 years ago in Pittsburgh, different story, right? Obviously, linebacking room. Can we just agree really quickly? Obvious upgrade.
Off the fact that Nate Gary's name's not on the
Yes, that is the biggest upgrade. The biggest addition was by subtraction. The fact that Nate Gary is not on this team anymore. The fact that Duke Riley, the special teams captain, is not one of your starting linebackers anymore is a huge upgrade. Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Patrick Johnson, Jannard Avery, Davion Taylor, Sean Bradley. A lot of similar names compared to last year. This year, you plug in Patrick Johnson and Eric Wilson, whereas last year was Nate Gary and Duke Riley. but I just think the addition of Eric Wilson is that much of a difference maker. I think Alex Singleton is really surprised. He's always around the ball. He's always involved. He's always gang tackling. I really like TJ Edwards last year before he got hurt. Davion Taylor was impressing early in camp before he got hurt. So I just think they're going to be a much deeper room, I think. And I think by only playing 2 compared to 3 starting linebackers is going to help this team as well. Corner skin.
Yeah, it's not close.
Yeah. Yeah. This cornerback room would have to be a humongous upgrade.
I don't want Kervon LeBlanc back. I saw he got cut today. And I assume Straps is going to be a name thrown around there if they're looking to pick someone up.
How about Craig James not on the opening roster today?
I'm more upset about Michael Jacquet, I think.
Are you? I think he.
Dude, I thought all they were talking about in the preseason games, dude, that dude can tackle for a corner.
That's true, but he can't.
And they were like, "Oh,
you know what? You know why his tackling stands out to you so much, Gint? Because he's always having to tackle. Because
I agree.
But I completely agree. Obviously, it would be hard to look at this cornerback room and say it's not an upgrade. They still have Darius Slay as their QB, as their CB number 1, but now you push Avonte Maddox to the slot where he's supposed to be. Where myself and I think every reasonable and knowledgeable Eagles fan and football person would tell you Avonte Maddox is a slot corner in this league. He's not big enough. He's not fast enough to play on the outside. He gets pushed back to the slot. Why? Because Howie makes another sneaky smart move this offseason, something we were clamoring for, in Steven Nelson. He's your CB number 2. Zach McPherson, who impressed early in camp. The rookie is number 4. And then Josiah Scott is number 5. Obviously, I think it's upgraded. You finally went out and got a cornerback 2 to put on the opposite side of the field from Darius Slay. That is huge. Like I said, the fact that Avonte Maddox can go back and play in a slot where he's supposed to be is only going to make him better. So I think this CB room is 1,000 times better just for one pickup, Steven Nelson, because it didn't just change CB2, it changed CB3 as well, and that was the biggest thing for me. Safeties, Gint. Last year, Rodney McLeod, your boy, the Green Goblin, Jalen Mills, Will Parks, the Philly native, Kevon Wallace was a rookie last year, Rudy Ford, and Marcus Epps. Obviously, what they keep last year, 6 safeties last year compared to 4 right now on this roster. Rodney McLeod and Ant Harris are your starters. Kevon Wallace and Marcus Epps are your backups. Again, is Ant Harris that much of an upgrade for this safety room?
I mean, I think it is, but if I'm dating back to the confidence I had last year, I remember kind of being a firm believer in the whole Jalen Mills moving back to safety.
Yeah, you bought in, didn't you?
And Will Parks being added and the Philly Will name, yada, yada, yada. But I think it's going to be an upgrade by the end of the season. Jalen Mills sucked at safety. And Will Parks played how many games last year?
Not a lot.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely going to be an upgrade, even though Marcus Epps sucks still.
Marcus Epps is horrible. I can't believe it's more for a special teams thing. I can't get Brandon Ayuk leaping over him in San Fran last year out of my head. Obviously, Kevon Wallace, I think we both really liked him coming out of Clemson last year. If he can continue to take a step in pass coverage this year, he's going to have a major role in this defense. Obviously McLeod's the same house. He's going to be coming off injury, but the Ant Harris thing, listen, I'm not going to front and act like I saw a lot of Anthony Harris football and safety play in Minnesota last year, but I'm really excited from what I've seen so far, from what I've heard, from, going back and just watching some of his stuff and some of his coverage. There's one play that sticks out to me in Minnesota last year where, dude, it's basically just 2 go routes splitting the middle of the field, and it's single high safety, and he's got to choose one, and he starts to go right to the QB. I forget who they were playing, throws the go route to the left receiver. He just turns, goes the other way, and over the shoulder picks the ball off. He's a heavy hitter. He's a hard hitter, which is something I thought we were getting in Will Parks last year. Didn't get to see a lot of it. So I'm really excited for the Ant Harris move. Just like I said, Steven Nelson completely upgrades the cornerback room for me. I think Anthony Harris completely upgrades the safety room for me.
Who was the safety they cut today?
The Eagles? Rudy Ford, right?
That's the guy that got mossed for the Hail Mary the other day, right?
Was it Rudy Ford?
I don't know.
No. Adams.
Yeah, that's what it was, dude. Someone someone quoted the tweet of him getting cut with just a clip of the guy mossing him for the Hail Mary. It was such a good tweet.
All
Won't
right,
get
so
enough love because it was a preseason game.
yeah. So that is the Eagles 53-man roster as of the 4 p.m. deadline today. Again, we went over almost all the position groups, comparing them to how we felt on August 31st of last year heading into the season compared to August 31st today heading into the 2021 season. A ton of ifs going into it. If Jalen Hurts, if Nick Sirianni, if injuries, et cetera, et cetera. Is this where does this roster compare to you to last year's overall? We just kind of broke down the rooms and the position groups as a whole. Is it better than last year? Is it an upgrade from last year? Is it worse? Why? Why not?
Knowing everything we know, it's obviously better, but dating back to last year, right before the season, I don't think, like you said, I was intending on winning the division last year. I intend on being one of the better teams in the NFC. I don't have the same hopes this year yet. I need to, like you said, it's ifs. I need to see a lot more, which isn't a knock. I know I love the troll. When you guys are on the show, I love the troll about Jalen Hurts, yada, yada, yada. I mean, by week 3, I could be totally changing my mind because we're talking about these defensive positions, the linebacker positions, the secondary, as major upgrades. The offensive line gets healthy. The skill position players look a little bit more fun, look a little bit faster, quicker, agile. So maybe in 3 weeks I'm saying something different. But for right now, I don't have the hopes I had last year, and I don't think I'm wrong for saying that.
No, you're not wrong. Anyone tells you that you are, they're just being extremely hopeful for this year's team. And that's, I think, something we've been praising since this past February and this offseason was sue me because I have to wait and see it before I believe in it because of how badly this team let me down last year. I agree with you. I think this roster, from what we know from last year, yeah, I think this roster is better than what they put out in the middle and the end of last year. I think they'll win more games than they won last year. It's not saying much. They only won 4 last year. I understand that. But going into last year, I agree. I thought I was hopeful that we were going to contend in the NFC. I was hopeful we were going to win this division. And the craziest part, again, and I'm not going back, we're not going to get into it at all. The first half in Washington, or at home, in Washington. Dude, in our group chat, we thought the MVP was back. We thought we're messing around. Super Bowl, here we go. 17 or 21 zip right off the jump. And then it became the biggest shitstorm I've ever seen as an Eagles fan. So that's why I'm just trying to temper my emotions. I'm excited, guys. I'm excited about Devontae Smith. I'm hopeful and excited about the dual threat of Jalen Hurts behind this offensive line with Nick Sirianni's offense. I see the Jalen Reagor catches. I see the Quez Watkins speed. I like the additions on defense. I think that they're going to be better than I originally thought. I think they're going to be better than a lot of people think. Does that equal division win? No, I don't. I think they're probably the second or third best team in this division, depending on how everything plays out. But if nothing else, it's going to be fun. I think they're going to be competitive. I think they're going to be entertaining, and that's all I can really ask for in this. As Phil Stifle likes to say, this retool. This it's not a rebuild; it's a retool type of year. Again, I will throw out before we wrap up and move on to the Phillies. Our Phillies portion of the show. I did see a tweet yesterday that kind of got me fired up for a second about this Eagles team. And, we trash Howie Roseman on the show and here a lot, and he deservingly so, right? But I do give him credit when it's deserved, and he has had a good offseason so far. I don't hate the roster he put out. I don't hate this draft class so far. But someone made a great point. The Eagles somehow rebuild quicker than any organization in recent memory. From 2016 to 2017, they went from a 7-9 team with a rookie QB out of North Dakota State to 13-3, winning a Super Bowl. Then they go on and win the division again, and so on and so forth. Or then they make a wild card, then win the division. So maybe who the hell knows what's going to happen? But I think that's the main takeaway from this roster and heading into week 1.
Not the quickest ever.
What's up?
Not the quickest ever.
But it's who the hell knows. So for anyone saying
Tom Brady, you win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, the Buccaneers took a page out of that book.
Yeah, that's very true. But my point is, who the hell knows? Who knows what this roster is going to look like soon? Who knows how the players on this roster perform, how this coaching staff performs? Who knows what the record's going to be like? Who knows? Anyone that tries to tell me and tell you guys out there that the Eagles are going to win 12 games this year, anyone that tries to tell you the Eagles are going to win 3 games this year, you don't know. My guess, I'll be giving it out next week for our opening week kickoff show starts. But I think they're going to be a middle of the pack team. They're going to be fun. They're going to be exciting. And I hope that they overachieve, and I hope to see them competing for the division and really spark up some life in this city this year.
I think that's the biggest thing as well for you and I, especially because we were two that question everything is we're going to root the hell out of them like we have our whole lives. I think the biggest thing is just be fun. Like, even if you win 6 games, whatever, just be fun. Last year was so unenjoyable. Everything about it was horrible.
No, the fan base was divided. The locker room was divided. The product on the field was stale and boring, and the defense sucked, and the offense couldn't score more than 13 points a game, it felt like. They were slow. Like you said, it was unenjoyable. It was damn near unwatchable for my favorite team in my favorite sport. And like you said, just be fun, be entertaining, and I think they will be. With that being said, let's move on to our Phillies portion of the show again, because I'm going to let you talk, because last week I did all the talking with George Ryder when he filled in for you about this Phillies team. And it's after, they had lost the 3 in Arizona to the Diamondbacks. And I said, I'm done. I think at that point they were 4.5 or 5. I think they were over 5 games out of the division behind the Braves. They somehow managed to lose 2 of 3 at home to the Reds, then get swept in the desert by the Diamondbacks. And I won't allow myself to buy in anymore. I don't care if they go on another 8-game win streak. I won't buy in. I won't be hopeful or rooting for them. Not rooting for them, but I won't be hopeful for a playoff appearance until it's down to the nitty-gritty and they're tied for the division or something on August 1st, right? But here we go again. Like, here, they cast the line and they start to reel you back in. And that's what I want to know from everyone out there and from you today is, are you allowing yourself to be reeled back in? Because just when they're 5.5 games out, you think they're dead in the water. Zach Eflin gets called up. He's back on the IL. Rhys Hoskins plays 1 game where it hits 3 home runs in his first 2 games back. He's out for the season. And you kind of just feel like this season's over. And now they're on a 4-game win streak. And now the rest of the schedule is easy as all hell outside of like 1 Brewer series on the road. And the Braves are in LA right now. They lose last night to the Dodgers. The Phillies are 3.5 back. The Braves get Walker Buehler tonight. The Phillies are still in Washington against the Nats. And it just feels like literally tomorrow they could be 2.5 games out of first place with over a month of baseball left to play. Are you getting reeled back in again? Are you hopeful? Are you believing in this team that they can make a pennant push?
Yeah, I'm not a huge I said so guy at all, as some are, but I mentioned when you and George were on that the Dodgers had the Yankees, the Giants.
I mean the Braves.
The Braves had the Yankees, the Giants, then the Dodgers, and we had the Diamondbacks and then the Nationals. And we could very well, and it wasn't we needed to make up all that ground in 2 series, but just be 3 games back. And here we are, we're on the doorstep of that. So I don't want to say I was out, but I don't want to say I'm in.
I was out.
I still have a lot of doubts, to be honest with you, just because that's what the Phillies will do to us. So, I mean, and you got to put into play. We play them 3 times still. It's the second to last series of the season, but if you're in striking distance by then, who knows, man? You know what I mean?
No, I'm with you. I just think I can't allow myself to be put through it anymore.
It's tough to be in also after you look at the lineup card tonight.
The lineup card is brutal tonight. And Matt Moore's on the mound. I know the Nationals stink. I know that they're basically giving up. I know that the Phillies have hit Corbin well this year. But, man, it would be hard to imagine they somehow beat a bad Nationals team tonight, because this Phillies team just doesn't look that great. And I think that's my biggest issue. It's now with the injury stockpiling. It's the fact that the bullpen still scares me. Literally, Jose Alvarado comes in last night. That man has no control whatsoever. Archie Bradley 2 days ago looked horrible. You never know what you're getting out of Hector Neris or Coonrod. Ian Kennedy, you never know what you're getting out of him still. And then even the aces, man. Zach, Wheels is going to be in the Cy Young in the NL conversation. A game against the Nationals, he doesn't have his stuff. So it's just like this team puts up 7 runs, and every inning it felt like your ace was going to give that lead right back against a bad Nationals lineup. And the Phillies just, I feel like every day in their lineup they have non-starters in their lineup, whether it's Travis Jankowski, whether it's Rafael Marchand, whether it's Luke Williams. Say what you want. I liked Ronald Torreyes. Is he really an everyday starter in the MLB? I don't know, dude. Brad Miller. They literally have 4 guys in your lineup that just shouldn't be everyday starters, and they have to be right now. And I just don't know how they continue to even beat the bad teams, but maybe they'll find a way. And what's the only thing keeping me hopeful, Gint? And I hate to say this because obviously you put the team above the player. But Bryce is the only thing. He's the only reason I even want them to get a wild card, to win this division, to get one series, even if they lose that series. I've been craving not just Phillies playoff baseball since we haven't seen it in a decade or so, but Bryce Harper in pinstripes in Citizens Bank Park in a freaking playoff game. And he's putting up MLB. He's putting up MVP numbers. He's going to be in the MVP conversation. He is right now. Get that man to a damn play-in game, to a 3-game series. I don't care what it is. Get Bryce Harper in a Phillies uniform in a playoff series or a playoff game. That's all I want to see.
I agree totally. And I mean, any given day, if you put the Phillies lineup with the Cy Young candidate on the mound, anything can happen. You know what I mean? So if you play a one-game playoff series,
I know
it's not really a series at that point. But I mean,
I think another thing holding me back though, dude, is just okay. Yeah, the whole point of a good team is to beat the teams you're supposed to beat and beat up on the lesser talented teams. And I guess you could say that's what they're doing, but then they're not capitalizing and not performing well against playoff caliber teams. So like when they went on that 8-game win streak, who did they beat? They beat the lifeless Mets, who are just climbing down the NL East standings. They beat the Nationals and had to have come back by major deficits against these teams, right? And then they lose 2 of 3 to the Reds. And then they lose both to the Rays. Like playoff teams, they are losing series or getting swept to. They get swept by the Diamondbacks in the desert. So, like, I just don't know that I can buy in after seeing them take 3 of 4 versus the Diamondbacks, now beat the Nationals. Like, so it's tough until I see the Braves continue to lose. And I'll just say, dude, I watched that whole game because I had some money on that Dodgers-Braves game last night. That Braves lineup is a problem. They're a problem. They lost Ronald Acuna Jr., and I thought that was it. I thought that's all she wrote. They lost their heart and soul of that team. They go out and they get Jorge Soler and they get Adam Duvall and they get Jock Peterson. Now, don't get me wrong. Are any of these guys hitting for average? Hell no. I saw last night, Soler's batting like 213. Duvall's batting like 219. They're not hitting for contact. But guess what, again? All of them have like 27 to 30 dingers and like over 60-some RBIs, 70-some, 80-some RBIs. They're a problem with the rest of that Braves lineup and that bullpen. So when I just think about it, I know the Braves schedule. I know that they're playing the Dodgers. I know the Phillies have a very easy schedule. But when I see these shouldn't be starters in the Phillies lineup, and then I look at this Braves lineup, I just don't see how they're going to beat out the Braves for the division. I don't see how in the second to last series of the season, they're going to Atlanta, maybe with the pennant on the line, and they're going to take 2 of 3 or sweep the Braves somehow. I don't see it. Hopefully I'm wrong. A couple weeks ago, I would have said, you're damn right the Phillies are winning this division. Now I think they've left me kind of lifeless.
that Tuesday to Saturday when they got swept by the Diamondbacks and they lost that.
That's what did it.
When Nola gave up the home run with 2 strikes, up 2 runs at the bottom of the 9th.
To the Padres?
Yeah, was like I mentioned it when we were talking to George. I was like, I'll probably look back on that at the end of the season and be like, yeah, that was probably where I lost a majority of my hope. But, I mean, like you said, man, we'll see. I mean, we're planning on being down there towards the stretch, so It'd be pretty cool to see some meaningful baseball in September.
And that's all I can ask for. But I think that some people get like so lost in it or forget about it. The Phillies played meaningful baseball in September last year again. It came down to the last series against the Rays, and they blew it. And I just hope that's not what you see at the end of this year. But it's gonna be one hell of a ride. Like you said, they are only 3.5 out now, and I'm not buying in. But guess what? If they beat a bad Nationals team tonight and the Braves lose on the road against the best team in baseball, in my opinion, with Walker Buehler on the mound, they're 2.5 out. And then guess what? Then the Braves still have to play another against the Dodgers. And so in 2 days, the Phillies could be a game and a half out of the first place. Who the hell knows? We'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, the reason that we're not on every day, when we're not on 4 days a week right now, which we will be once football season gets rolling and everything, is because I can't talk about this Phillies team every day. When the Eagles training camp's over, you can only talk about Ben Simmons drama so much with the Sixers. The Flyers are in stall mode. I can't talk about this Phillies roller coaster every day. They lose one, they win three. They lose three to the Diamondbacks. I can't do it. So until football season's basically in full swing, we'll be back to Monday through Thursday. Right now, we're about 2 days a week. Again, before we wrap up here tonight, I want to leave it up to you, my co-host. You make the decision. You want to talk about it or no?
No, we don't really have to get.
No.
We can see it when the drama unfolds, man.
That's fine. That's fair. We're going to need content tomorrow or Thursday anyway.
You and I have talked about this a million times. It's going to be repeating at this point, but let's just wait for the drama to come out. It's bound to happen at this point, right? So just save it. It's not.
Little teaser there for the people. I wonder if they're picking up what we're putting down here.
Yeah, if you can put the puzzle pieces together. I don't know if you've been on Twitter for the last 3 hours.
But with all that being said, this is the Faithful Fanatic Show. I'm your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my co-host and partner, Matt McGinty. Give him a follow on Twitter at Matt_McGinty. Give me a follow on Twitter at DylanJD98 if you want to. But most importantly, give us here at DSM Media a follow on Twitter at DSM_media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on IG, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, wherever you get your content. We're on every social media platform, especially if you want to be involved in our great giveaways. We've already raffled off a pair of Eagles-Patriots preseason tickets. We just raffled off on this past Sunday a Devontae Smith jersey. We're going to be doing a lot more raffles and giveaways to all you guys, our viewers out there, for interacting with us. So with that being said, have a nice night. Tap into DSM Media and ring the bell, I guess. Later, guys.
Go. This could decide the game.